I think one of the biggest things and one of the hottest pieces out on the internet right now is your big board.
You have to draft C.J. Kirst. If you watch him play, he's doing things that no one else has done before.
Now we are welcoming an Italian lacrosse legend, Paul Carcaterra. Paul, you're on the scene. How are we feeling?
I'm good. Am I the only Italian in this chat or what?
No. Come on. We've already been through this a couple times. We're gonna start it off with an Italian special. We're going to go straight to a start bench cut. Some of the guys had this as the last question. I'm going to put it as the first question. Start bench cut Italian dishes. I already know your answer because we talked about this prior. Start bench cut penne vodka, chicken parm, or the classic spaghetti and meatballs. What are we picking?
That's tough. Last time we spoke about it was a few years ago. I'm getting old, man. I'm almost like a senior citizen, so my palate changes.
Do you remember what you said?
I said chicken parm, but it probably had to fall under a different chicken parm category. It has to be razor thin. If it doesn't slide under a door, it's no good. Like I don't need that. I don't need that thick stuff that you and Hogan were eating at the Ohio State dining hall.
Yeah, that's
literally.
I'm starting that.
Okay.
I'm taking the penne vodka ahead of the meatballs and spaghetti. You know, meatball alone I love because I think meatballs are a standalone. I don't need spaghetti with my meatballs, so I'm cutting that. But I'm starting chicken parm razor thin.
Razor thin under the door.
Does it have to be with the red sauce, or can you put vodka sauce or something else on there, or it's got to be strict red sauce like marinara?
I think vodka sauce on a chicken parm is great as a change of pace. But if I'm going to the electric chair and I have it one more time, I got to go with straight marinara.
You're going classic. Classic. I like that. You're going classic. All right, Paul, excited to chat. I think one of the biggest things and one of the hottest pieces out on the internet right now is your big board 1.0. Obviously, the draft's coming up here and right about, I think we're a month out right now. But talk to us who you have on the big board right now and kind of your why with this top draft.
Well, I think we need to also just get it out of the way. Like a big board is not a mock draft, and a mock draft is not a big board. So I think a lot of lacrosse fans, when I get to the mock draft aspect of it, they might not see someone that was high up on my big board because the needs of teams all change, right? Like I think football people are accustomed to that. I think the lacrosse people just assume that the top 10 on a big board are going to be the top picks. And I always like to differentiate the type, and I'll respond to a lot of people that have the questions. But at the end of the day, like big board is straight up like baller number 1 through baller 12 that I release. Like who are the best players that are capable of performing at a really high level, and these first 12 guys are guys that I would draft with the expectation of them playing right away. I also take into account like the type of career path some of these guys are going to explore. When I was, first covering pro lacrosse in the mid 2000s, I would say 80% of the lacrosse players in the MLL, lacrosse was their secondary occupation, right? A lot of them were bankers, teachers, firemen, cops, whatever. And the other 20% were trying to make it work with lacrosse full time, whether they were coaching, running camps, but playing and training all the time. I would say the script has completely turned in regards to that. And the PLL is not meant for guys who are going to part-time lacrosse. It will chew you up. It will spit you out. It is the most physical. It's the most gruesome grind from a lacrosse perspective that you could possibly have. The guys who are going to succeed are the guys who are invested 110%. They're training all the time. They're watching film. They're preparing. Like every day is a huge part of the progression of a week, right? Like just like a professional football player, a professional basketball player, you're rehabbing, you're treating yourself the right way. So that's changed a lot too. So when I look into some of these aspects, I take that into account. Like if I know a guy is going to be in investment banking, he's going to try the PLL out, like that weighs heavily on where that person will go on the big board, because the shelf life of that person is probably a year or two. So I think those two things are always top of mind when we're talking about the draft, right? Big board, mock draft, not the same. and then the lacrosse player, the 2025 lacrosse player who's transitioning from college lacrosse to pro lacrosse. How invested are they in being a full-time lacrosse player? And there's opportunities outside of the PLL too to make it work with sponsorships and brands and everything under the sun. So I think that's the critical piece or pieces when I think of constructing a board. This one was actually pretty easy in terms of who number one would be. I don't care what your needs are. If your needs are goalie, attack, midfield, defense, face-off, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to draft C.J. Kirst. He is a generational type talent, and we throw that word around a lot, but he is. If you watch him play, he's doing things that no one else has done before. I was diving into some real numbers with Kirst last week. Just chew on this, fellas. So Kirst, right now, if Cornell goes to championship weekend and they play through the Ivy tournament too, and he plays in the Ivy League championship, which we're all expecting him to do, make a deep run into May. C.J. Kirst will end up with 250 goals. The career goal record in the NCAA is from Peyton Cormier in Virginia at 224, which he had last year. C.J. Kirst is going to blitz that record, but if you look at the top 10 scorers in NCAA lacrosse history from a goal standpoint, C.J. Kirst will have played in the fewest amount of games, even with a May run, compared to anyone in the top 10, and he'll be 25 goals higher than former number one in that case. So, like, this he's generational. There's no COVID extra year. There was no red shirt year where he got injured and played in 5 games and they gave him another year. This is 4 straight years with less games than all of the greatest goal scorers of all time. Like, take into account, like, Cornell didn't go to the playoffs last year. They lost in the semifinals of the Ivy League championship. Their season was toast. The year before, they got bounced against Michigan in the first round of the playoffs. The only time he had a longer May run was his freshman year. So this guy is he's can't miss from a character perspective, from the way that he plays the game. And if you're the Water Dogs, like if you're Bill Tierney, and we're talking about Irish guys and Italian guys, he's Irish. He should do the Irish jig every night until the draft, because he has Michael Sowers, who is one of the most electric Dodgers I've seen at the attack position. The only guy that I would put in Michael Sowers' category, watching lacrosse for decades and decades, is Michael Powell. From a feet perspective, no one has the feet like Michael Sowers in the modern game. So you're taking this electric Dodger and you're putting this beast on the opposite side. You have a righty in Sowers and a lefty in Kirst. No team in the PLL right off the jump has 2 dodging attackmen like that. That's just the reality. So that team's going to drastically change. It doesn't matter what their needs are. I know they faced off under 50% last year and they have some other holes. It doesn't matter. You got to go with C.J. Kirst. So that was a starting point for me, and it was more obvious than any year I've been covering the draft. I mean, as much as we know Brendan O'Neill was a can't-miss pro prospect too, and you watch him play, he was incredible. We all thought, everyone on this chat right here, we all thought that Connor Schellenberger could be at some point, and even if you were, you had conviction with O'Neill, you thought about Schellenberger, right? You all did. Don't lie. Did you?
I still do.
Yeah. We still talked about it.
There's no one on this board that you're possibly going to get cute about and pick over C.J. Kirst. There's just you can't. No one does. Like, please raise.
Paul,
your
let me
hand
ask you
now.
this question: if C.J. was in last year's draft, who are you taking at number 1?
I think it's easy to say C.J., but C.J. didn't have the year he's having this year. C.J. didn't have the deep May run, and let's take into account too, like when the team is struggling a little bit, and you're not front facing as much as like a Schellenberger that's on TV every week, and a Brendan O'Neill who's on TV every week. Cornell sometimes plays in outer space, right? You gotta log up on the laptop and watch him play. So he has to do like uncommon things to get the same notoriety. Last year he was good, but I mean he was under 50 goals on the year. He was in the mid 60s in points. He's going to have more goals than he had points last year. So I think we're all like evaluating the Kirst and Schellenberger and O'Neill. Who would you pick first based on what he's doing now? Yes. If they were all playing their senior year and we got to go apples to apples with senior year, I'm taking Kirst. but that wasn't the case. And last year, yeah, I've seen a lot of people throwing that around. I think they're making that decision based on what they're seeing now. But if I had to do it last year, I would have given it some thought. But I wouldn't have passed on O'Neal. I think at the end of the day, I had Schellenberger number 1 on my big board, but there was always a part of me like, you can't pass on Brennan O'Neal. Like, we've always talked about Duke, misusing him a little bit maybe, and maybe he didn't like have his full talents on display all the time. Like, you watch this guy, what he's doing in professional outdoor and indoor. I mean, he's a freak show. So I don't know. Like, I think if we compared them all for their senior years, it's an easier debate from a Kirst perspective. But you have a senior year for a reason, and he's stamping it.
Could I interject really quick and ask if you could take into account Kirst's senior year and O'Neal's rookie year in the PLL, who would you pick first?
Oof. If I'm the Water Dogs, I'm picking Kirst because I've seen O'Neal and Sowers together before, and I think they were good, but they weren't out of this world good. And the idea of Kirst with this senior year and him being the most prolific goal scorer with a monster X on his back, because as good as Ryan Goldstein is and as good as Michael Long is, every time C.J. Kirst steps on the field, he doesn't have the same band as, O'Neal had over the years at Duke, right? I mean, like, there's just more depth. I would take Cornell's attack over any attack in the country right now. I think they complement each other and they're amazing. But, like, how many midfielders can the normal lacrosse fan name from Cornell? Like, probably not a ton. There's a depth of midfielders at a place like Duke where O'Neal, as much as he was a wanted man too, and he got everyone's best, I just think the X on C.J. Kirst's back reminds me more of the X on Pat Spencer's back than it does Brennan O'Neal's, if that makes any sense. Because when Pat Spencer was at Loyola, it's like, if you stop Pat Spencer and you are a top team, and this is no disrespect to Loyola because they had some really good players and great teams, but if you stop Pat Spencer in that 4-year span, you were going to win that game in a big spot. If it was a Patriot League championship game or if it was an NCAA tournament game, there were times where Duke's Brennan O'Neal was stopped and Duke still won the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and last week I thought, Carc, that potentially CJ's record, if he does blow it out like we think, I think might not get broken in our lifetime, because it's not like he's breaking that by 2 or 3 goals from Cormier. If he hits up to 250, the COVID years are out the window. In the future, I think that could be a record that's going to stand for a long time, because people want to say O'Keefe broke it fairly recently, and then obviously with Peyton Cormier breaking it last year, I think that with the COVID years gone and stuff, it's going to last a lot longer. But I was going to ask you this, Carc, besides CJ, obviously, and the kind of the guys at the top like Chris and Coulter Mackesy and so on and so forth, which prospect has kind of impressed you so much this year and kind of risen up your board that you kind of didn't have at this time last year?
I think Sam English is a guy that's really starting to really resonate in my mind as a unicorn in the draft. And when I say a unicorn, I'm not saying he's C.J. Kirst and he's generational talent. I just think he's so different than the rest of this group. No player in this draft checks all these boxes that have played short stick defensive midfield in his career. He did that his freshman year at Princeton. Has been an elite midfielder offensively. I mean, he's one of the trigger men on the Syracuse offense. Like, if you watch the way they play offense, Sam English initiates the offense quite a bit. He still plays man down for Syracuse. He plays wings. There's no one logging those types of minutes. In a day and age where this game's becoming so specialized in the modern day, we don't see these types of throwbacks. I mean, most midfielders don't cross the midfield line one way or another. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Mitchell, when you played midfield at Ohio State, how many times did you intentionally go back and play defense?
Zero.
I
got called a couple times
Sam
and
English
it wasn't great.
Intentionally is the first guy. If you watch Syracuse play, when they're in an offensive set, he intentionally goes over the midfield to stop any type of transition and plays defense. Like I said, he plays man down. He's incredible on wings. Everyone talked about Jake Stevens as like that kind of guy. Jake Stevens is more of more of an offensive midi, maybe in tight quarters. Like Jake Stevens, when you watch him fake and he throws like 50 fakes and scores from behind the goal, like he is a highly, highly trained and skilled offensive player. He does play wings and he can play some defense, but he doesn't play nearly as good a defense as Sam English. So Sam English to me is the true unicorn in this draft, because there's really no player in the PLL too that's playing two-way like Sam English does in college. So it kind of just makes you think, like, you know, in pro football, where are you going to put Travis Hunter, right? He's done so well at one position defensively as a cornerback, at one position offensively as a wide receiver. Well, are you going to play him at both? Or are you going to tell him, like, you're better at this and we're going to draft you and put you here? It's kind of a little bit of the same dilemma with Sam English. Or do you just let them both play what they like to play and how they've done it so well? Like, just because you do something different than someone else doesn't mean you can't continue to do something different than everyone else, because you're going to the next level, the highest level of the game. Maybe you're just that good. So I don't know of a guy in the PLL that plays the same way Sam English does in college. There isn't one, to be honest with you. So he's really, really intriguing. He's going up the board big time for me. I look at a team like the Redwoods, who picked 2 and 3. Like, you have to think hard about Sam English because he plugs a bunch of holes. And if you don't take him at 2 and 3 and you wait till the 10th pick of the draft, he's not going to be around. People are smart enough to know, like, this guy's different than the rest, right? A lot of times when you're drafting and your analysis around players is, you know, specific to one thing. Like, he's a great cover guy, like great shooter, like 𝐓𝐇𝐄 awesome lefty wing guy, can throw skip passes. Owen Hiltz is in the same kind of bucket. So you think of those things. When you break down Sam English, like, you can't put your finger on, like, where he's at his best, because he's so good at everything. And I just think he's different. So I would say he's the guy that's really rising up the draft board. And then there's one guy I didn't have in the top 12, but I could see him potentially going in the first round, and that's Owen Hiltz from Syracuse. And the reason I say this is because he's a lot like 𝐓𝐇𝐄 So if 𝐓𝐇𝐄 is the flavor of the month for the Boston Cannons, who need a lefty, they're going to draft 𝐓𝐇𝐄. But I could see them potentially going after a guy like an Owen Hiltz too, because let's be honest, when you watch the Boston Cannons, they tried many, many different scenarios for their lefty attack spot last year. It was borderline painful to watch at times because they had all the pieces to a puzzle, and they were putting midfielders down at lefty attack. And they played Pat Cavanaugh at midfield more than attack. And Pat Cavanaugh could play left. If you look at Notre Dame's attack last year, it was 3 righties: Jake Taylor, Pat Cavanaugh, Chris Cavanaugh. I think it's kind of a little bit overrated when you have a two-handed guy like Pat Cavanaugh. Like, he could have fit that kind of mold of playing alongside Holman and Nolting. They didn't go that direction for whatever reason. Those guys make those decisions and spend a lot more time with their team than I do, but they are desperate for a lefty. I'd be shocked if they didn't draft a lefty. And I think the only lefty that you can play in the same sandbox with 𝐓𝐇𝐄 is Owen Hiltz. And depending on what you like, you might think Owen Hiltz is even better. And I think both of them are outstanding. So if the Cannons get 𝐓𝐇𝐄 or Hiltz, with that 4th pick after the Redwoods go back to back, I think they'll be thrilled, because that's the missing piece to that offense.
So going off that, I just have a quick question in regards to Syracuse. So I think it was at the end of their Harvard game, we got into a debate on this podcast because we have to give takes and talk about analysis. And I had something to say that Syracuse didn't feel at the end of the game that they had a guy that they were like, go get this goal. And we're like, who's going to be that guy for Syracuse? They have so many talented players. They have Hiltz, they have Spallina, they have English. And I came away from that game saying, I think Sam English is the guy that you got to put the ball on the stick and initiate that offense. So if you're Syracuse, there's 30 seconds to go. Who do you think is their main guy that they want to go to goal?
I think that's a loaded question based on the matchups and based on the usage of Sam English. But if you watched late in the Virginia game, It was Sam English. He threw some passes to the opposite side. Like, Sam English likes to dodge at like 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, those high wing areas. And he really initiates the offense. And a lot of times his matchup is better than Spallina's, because Spallina is getting everyone's number one. And you go from John Schroeder Sean Light to every gangbuster there is and top cover guy in the country. So, as good as Joey is, are you going to go after that guy late in the game just because maybe Joey's your most dynamic offensive player and your leading scorer, or do you go after the matchups? And I always say Sam English on a pole or a shorty is a good matchup because of his speed, because of the way that he dips his shoulder. Like there was a point in the game against Notre Dame. It was a perfect teaching moment for all these guys who make a move and they scatter to the sidelines and dodge east-west. Like Sam English made that move, and immediately once he got a step, he like dipped his shoulder to continue going north-south. So like he knows where the goal is. So like, yeah, I'm starting with him. What's also intriguing for Syracuse now is this freshman Peyton Anderson. They call him Bear. I mean, he's 6'2", he's 220 pounds. He's got really good stick skills, awesome balance. If you watch the Notre Dame game, he scores the first goal of the game when they're down 3-0. He goes right after Greg Campese, who's a fifth-year senior, just physically bullies him. He's going to change things for Joey and the rest of this offense because he's going to demand a big-time matchup. Syracuse ran into trouble last year when the third attack spot started to get short-sticked. That was going to happen again eventually if they didn't make these changes. You can't have regularly an attackman being shorted. It will blow your offense up. That's just the reality of it. You might get away with it for a week or two, but at the end of the day, on a long stretch, your offense is going to get blown up if your attack's getting shorted. The only guy that your offense won't get blown up if you're getting shorted is probably Jake Taylor because he's just too smart inside. He manipulates the defense and he toys on guys in terms of just finding room for him or his midfield play up top. Like if you watch the Georgetown game, they decided to like really play Jake Taylor heavy inside. Their midfielders went nuts that game. What happened this week against Syracuse? Well, they played Jake Taylor really tight inside. The middies for Notre Dame did not step up in that game. And that's what cost them in that game. Like their midfielders had opportunities to dodge and they just didn't take advantage of them.
So obviously, Carc, in this business, you just have to give out takes all the time. And I know better than I think anybody here, honestly. They like to scream about your misses. They like to scream when you're wrong. Anything you're right about, they never want to give you any credit. So when you're doing these big boards, when you're evaluating talent from college to pros, who's someone that you hit on that nobody else saw what you saw?
That's a great question. So I had TJ Malone in my first round last year, and he went in the third round. I thought it was comical that teams passed up on a guy who was two-time Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. This isn't like the Little Sisters of the Poor Conference, right? He's going against full-grown dudes who are absolute animals, like the ACC and the Ivy. Like you're getting the best defenders in the country every single week. He drew the number one poll every game for 2 straight years, and he delivered. Like if you look at him in big spots, his junior year when he played Duke in the national semifinals, he was the best player on the field that day. Like I don't understand why teams passed on him too, because of his versatility. You watch him dodge, he can go from behind, he goes from the wing, he goes up top. Like you guys played him, Hogs and Pehlke. You guys played TJ Malone. Like that guy, there's nothing predictable about the way he dodges. He's like a complete 360 offensive player, and he does it in the pros too. So I thought that was a huge miss. I had him in the first round. The contrary to that was I had him ahead of Matt Brandau, and people thought I was crazy passing up on Matt Brandau because he was, the all-time leading point scorer in the Ivy League. But, Matt Brandau, to my understanding, I know he's obviously a super bright guy. He's at Yale. I'm not positive. I think he's, in the Wall Street finance world. And that's really tough to play pro lacrosse while you're in that world. And I know TJ Malone's in business too, but I don't know if he's in like the type of program that a guy like Brandau's in. I mean, Brandau's the Yale guy. He's going to be buying and selling everyone on this chat one day. So don't feel bad for him.
It's nice that you and Stags agreed on that pick.
Yeah, finally, right? Yeah. Look, there's a lot of guys you miss on too, and
Who's been your biggest miss?
Who's my biggest miss?
I like that question.
Oh, that's a good question. I was really low. On the short stick D middies. Connor Marr from UNC. I thought he had a tough senior year, and I watch all these games, right? So like the eyes don't lie. He had a really tough senior year, I thought, at UNC. Compared, now he was good still, but compared to his freshman, sophomore, junior year, like the narrative goes on these guys like, oh, he had a great freshman, sophomore, junior year. He's, one of the best short stick middies in the country. And you just keep hearing the narrative. And his senior year on tape was not as good. And I thought the Archers kind of stretched a little in the second round on Connor Marr, and I was wrong. I think he's been fantastic. And I'm happy for him. Like when I miss on someone, I'm happy for him. I'm not like trying to prove myself right. Like, oh, I hope he doesn't turn out well because, I didn't have him high. The funny thing about Connor Marr is I don't know if it's like his brother's girlfriend or someone in the family, his friend or family member, brother's girlfriend, someone on social media DM'd me with some of the most scathing remarks about how much they hated me because on draft night, I said I didn't agree with the pick. I thought it was a bad pick. And you got to have an opinion. Not every pick is great. There's nothing.
Do we respond to the hate,
He's
Paul?
a great lacrosse player. He's a multi-time All-American. He's winning PLL championships. I'm happy for him. He's probably a great guy too. I don't know him well, but it's just the way that the world works. But you can't be doing what you guys are doing. You can't be doing what I'm doing and not have an opinion.
Right.
You don't have an opinion, you're worthless.
I do have a question with you regarding that's an interesting point. How much do you hold senior year compared to the first 3 years? Because it seems like you hold that into a higher regard almost. I
do. I mean, because senior year like that's when you have to be ready to make the transition. But it's hard too, because like you have guys, like I'm watching Ben Ramsey. Ben Ramsey's been, from Notre Dame, short stick D midi. Is he a PLL level short stick D midi? Absolutely. Would I draft him if I had needs there? Yes. But like the reality is he was better in 2024 than he is right now. I mean, he has the final stretch to make that up. But if you watch the Maryland game, he's beat for a couple goals. He's, against Syracuse, he didn't break down and try to play Spallina. You see when Spallina did that fake and then turn around lefty, like normally you break down and you get into someone's hips, right? Like
backdoored him for the win.
Yeah, so he's given up some goals that I didn't see necessarily out of him the last 2 years. But I think he's a great player. But senior year, weighs really heavily. Weighs heavily to the standpoint that we're all talking about C.J. Kirst. And would you draft him over O'Neal and Schellenberger? If you asked me last year, I would say no. And I think it's so easy for people to say yes now. But if you asked me based on his senior year, yeah. So, yes, senior year matters. Matters a lot, too, because, you want the trajectory going this way, right? Like, because if the trajectory goes here and then goes here and then down, you're asking questions like why, right?
Carc, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Redwoods and what you think they're going to do. We're all on the same page that Kirst is going to be the number one pick. And I think everyone else does. The draft starts at number 2. The Redwoods have picks 2 and 3. We had Joe Spallina, the new GM, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He told us he wants an attackman who can operate below GLE. Since then, they picked up Brendan Nichtern, but they still have those 2 picks. Do you think that they go after that player, that type of attackman who can quarterback their offense with one of those 2 picks? Or do you think they wait till next year and get Joey?
The only attackman that I have on my big board that would fit that mold outside of C.J. Kirst is Sam King, right? Everyone else is an above the goal type player. So it depends. If you go after Sam King with one of those 2 picks, you still have a lot of holes, right? You have a hole in goaltending. The Redwoods to me and the Chaos have the biggest holes to fill. The Redwoods were, second to last in goals allowed last season. They were last in save percentage. They have crazy needs. Their offense was stagnant at times. So, like, you could look at the Redwoods and say, geez, like, where do we start here? So if you have all of those holes to fill, goaltending's another one, right? Like, there's been some talks about goaltending. Like, where are they going from a goalie perspective moving forward? How much longer is Jack Kelly playing? Is he going to retire? Like, there's a lot of pieces to that. So if you have all those needs, I think if you're Joe Spallina, a guy like Sam English is intriguing because you could use him in a variety of ways, right? A guy like Andrew McAdore, he's played attack and midfield at Duke. You could use him in a variety of ways. Like, you should be comfortable enough with McAdory. McAdory's best work, guys, is a lot of times from behind the goal. Just watch him. Last year when he was at his best, he's scoring 4 goals against Syracuse in the ACC tournament. Look where he scored from. Goal line extended and below. Look how he won the Michigan game. He scored 3 goals. They were almost carbon copies. Where were they from? Behind the goal. So, like, I think you got to look at a guy like a McAdory, fits multiple needs. Sam English fits multiple needs, because if you use one of those picks on Sam King and he's having trouble running by, number ones in the PLL, I mean, Brendan Nichtern, if he's in shape, he's shown you that he can do damage in the PLL. So maybe you say to yourself, I'm gonna hedge Nichtern a little bit. I'm gonna hope to find maybe another guy behind the cage as an insurance policy, if possibly at number 10 in the second round when I'm going back after my picks. Maybe I'll look at goalie or behind the goal guy if Sam King's still flying around, or maybe I wait longer and I go McAdory, English with 2 and 3. I get a goalie at 10, and I hope maybe from an insurance perspective, maybe Ryan Cohn's flying around in the 3rd or 4th round from Michigan. So there's a lot going on there, but I think that's a team with so many holes that you got to think a little bit more chameleon with your 2nd and 3rd pick if I'm the Redwoods, because I think you can plug those guys in different spots and know you're going to be okay, because Andrew McAdory is probably going to play pro lacrosse for 10 years. I just can tell. Like, he's a lax rat.
Ooh, that's sick.
All in. Sam English is going to play pro outdoor, pro indoor. He's a lax for life guy, right? Like, those guys are only going to get better too. So I think those are safe picks at 2 and 3. If this is my draft, I'm probably going in that direction, because I think it's less of a gamble. Not to say Sam King isn't a great player in college, because he is. He's having a Twarton finalist type season. But the same way I want to know about all of these really, really super smart guys who are crushing it at Ivy League schools, what is your job aspirations? Are you going to be an investment banker? Because if you're going to be an investment banker, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not drafting you. I'm not with a first round pick. Like, do you know what investment banking entails? You know how long those guys work? They work like 18-hour days. Yeah. Good luck going against Graham Hossick after you've been doing spreadsheets and working 18-hour days. Good luck with that, guys. Good luck. I'm going with the guy that's getting treatment at 2:00 on a random Tuesday, right? And he just ate a salad after he, salad in a bowl of chicken after he had a 2-hour lift.
Now, if Sam King, if we could get him to produce sorry, Matty Ice, but if we could get him to produce the Mitchell Pehlke Lacrosse Show, and he wants to be a lacrosse podcaster, would he have a first round grade?
Absolutely. Look, this is no personal attack at this. This is just a reality. This league, I watch this league up front every week in the summer. You can't part-time it, guys. If Sam King, like Coulter Mackesy, I had a conversation with Coulter Mackesy. Like, he's all in on lax. Like, he did not sign up for a job. I am drafting Coulter Mackesy in the first round. This is no anti-Ivy thing. I just know that the Ivy guys typically have some pretty sick jobs lined up, right? Good for them. I mean, they're in a great spot for life. It's like, again, I don't feel bad for these guys. They're graduating from the best schools in the world. If they decide to take a business job, that's fine. I'm just not drafting you in the first round, and I'm not apologizing for it either.
No, it's a nice perspective to have, and a refreshing one, honestly, because I think some people try to hide the fact that that's a reality, and I like that your perspective on it, giving a second round grade to somebody like that who might not play for 10 years, like we see with Chris Gray. And people want to throw this outrage over Chris Gray retiring. It's like, reality is
go back a couple years, right? Like he goes to what's the business school down there called? Like the Flagler School. That's one of the best business schools in the country. He's working in the city. Do you really think he's going to be able to take care of both sides of things for year after year? You even saw a dip in his game. That's to be expected. Yeah. My game would be a hot mess if I tried to do both. And look, I still think Sam King is someone who should be drafted, but if he's in a situation where he's going to be at a desk for 16 hours a day, like that changes things, guys. Like, it does.
Yeah. I know there's a New York City contingent too that practices on top of Chelsea Piers all the time, waking up at 6 a.m. before work when you have those investment banking hours. It's ridiculous.
Dude, you know what they say is like the most important thing for recovery, for your mental aptitude? It's called sleep. You ever hear that? Right? Like you get 8 hours a day, you could take on the world. You get 3 or 4, you feel like you're hungover, right? Like, talk to me, guys. That's what it is.
Yep.
One guy who I know we have no questions about them being bought in lacrosse, bringing it back to Spallina. You called the game this weekend. I was super impressed with his performance off ball against Sean Light this weekend. And I was curious what your thoughts are on that and that development. And what do you think, looking ahead of here, he projects as in the PLL? Is he like a ball dominant ex-attackman, or is he more of an off ball guy?
Look, I think what Joey Spallina did against Notre Dame was like a masterclass in terms of his maturation as a player, right? Because you wear 22 at Syracuse and you get your 10 points against, Colgate and Manhattan. No disrespect to them. Everyone wants to see what you're doing against the ACC and all these big schools, right? In terms of lacrosse blue bloods. Spallina, instead of pushing and forcing the issues against Notre Dame, he said to himself, I'm going to play a different game here. And the off-ball game and the game plan that Pat Marsh, the offensive coordinator, had in that game, I thought was elite, because you took Sean Light, who is a cover guy. He's a freak of a cover guy, right? Like, if he was in this draft, he's a no-brainer top 5 pick. Like, he's that good. He's used to covering the ball on the perimeter. And they put him in some really tough slide spots, and it unlocked Spallina's like true powers, right? Because if you look back to Spallina when he's a little kid, like he was playing in the World Series of Lacrosse when he was line mates with Brennan O'Neill and Xavier Arline. Xavier Arline, when he was playing youth lacrosse, he was electric. Like, we're talking about guys like Michael Sowers with feet. Like, he was a glider. He was so dominant as a ball-carrying, slashing, dodging, athletic attackman. And then you had O'Neill, who was shooting 95 miles an hour when he was like 12. Okay? Joey Spallina's role with the Crush when he was playing back in the day was above the goal line. And he was so good at it, right? Like, so good at it. Now you add that past experience. You go to Canada and you dominate in box lacrosse for the last 2 summers, right? Like, Joey Spallina is an American, and next year in the draft, like, the big question is going to be like, who do you take number 1 in the indoor draft? Do you take Finn Thompson, who's like, one of these prodigies too, in indoor? Do you take Joey Spallina, who's been really playing indoor for 2 years? He's that good at it. So I think the lacrosse world saw what some people on the inside knows what he's capable of. And it's the same reason why I think Joey Spallina will be a pro outdoor and pro indoor for a decade at the minimum, because he's that good. And I don't think it matters if he's a ball dominant carrying guy or if he's playing off ball. He's got experience doing both. But I think his best lacrosse is when he's above goal line, and he is a lethal shooter. He's an elite passer. His vision is exceptional. And just because you have exceptional vision doesn't mean it has to be an X all the time, right? Like, you could be a wing passer. You can go behind when you need to. So I think Spallina in these next couple years, when he has those kind of matchups, people are going to be very, very cognizant of the fact that you can't just put a cover guy on him. That guy has to be able to play off the ball. And if you dare put a number 2 on him, he's gonna feast from a dodging perspective. So I think that was a great display for Spallina in his draft stock for the PLL for the following year, because you just saw a guy who's elite off the ball. And we know that he's capable with the ball in his stick, quarterbacking a team. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Like, when you wear 22 at Syracuse, people don't realize, like, it's different. Like, you do a game up there or you watch a game, there's 11,000 screaming fans. Like, they know lacrosse. It's the only place where, when I go to the TSA check the next morning when I'm flying out, like, the TSA guys want to talk lacrosse with me. Like, that doesn't happen.
Sick.
It doesn't happen when I'm in other places. Like, hey, heck of a game. What'd you think? You go to the national car counter there. Like, they want to talk lacrosse. The place is insane. So with all that great communal feel up in Syracuse, there comes pressure too. Like, they expect to win. You are covered by the local media. Like, they are trained. The lacrosse players at Syracuse are trained how to deal with media. There's media training for those guys. I'm sure they do that at Ohio State too, but like, I mean, do they?
Yeah.
Not really, honestly.
No.
I feel like
Do they teach you
it was
how to
just
respond to podcasters?
They do that at
Calling for your coach's job?
Yeah, they do that at Syracuse, and they have to, because the media really covers them. So the kid has had so much pressure, and a lot of people say, he asked for 22. Screw him. Look, man, he asked for 22, yes. And what I like about the kid is he takes his lumps and he comes back, right? He comes back and he's tough as nails, and he's a phenomenal lacrosse player. And a phenomenal lacrosse player does not have to be the guy who takes the ball at the end line and runs by everyone every single time. A phenomenal lacrosse player can beat a player with his head, can beat a player with his shooting. I mean, like, you look at like a 𝐓𝐇𝐄. He was the league's MVP. Who is 𝐓𝐇𝐄 beating in a race, right?
True. So true.
He's just waiting for
Not
a
me.
defender to make the smallest overcommitment, right? Same with Connor Fields. Connor Fields, to me, is like the most dominant Dodger in lacrosse, right? I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. He's also one of the best indoor players in the world. He's leading the league in points last time I checked. Like, he is a matchup nightmare. If you didn't know Connor Fields and you saw him on the street, he looks like he's, the local paper boy, right? Like, he looks like he's still 16 years old. He doesn't look like a killer. He can't run by anyone in a foot race, but he just waits for a defender to get antsy, and then he counters, right? So Spalina has a little bit in that game in terms of like Fields and Teat. It's like sometimes it's okay to play a little slower. You don't have to run by guys to be the best, right? That's just the reality.
Yeah, it's so crazy too. At 𝐓𝐄, Carc, me and Mitch used to always talk about it. We never played 𝐓𝐄 in a real game, but we scrimmaged them our junior year in the fall. And you go to the indoor facility there, and you have Roy Simmons Sr., Roy Simmons Jr. outside there. They're the only place that we've been that has like lacrosse players on their indoor facility. Usually that's like, especially at Ohio State, it's all football. So like 𝐓𝐄, it runs in the blood there. But I will say, Carc, keeping it in college lacrosse, Mitch and I's Buckeyes right now are probably the hottest team in college lacrosse ever since that week 1 loss. So I want to ask you, who's your number 1 team right now? Who do you got number 1? And then which 4 teams do you think are making it to championship weekend as of right now?
So a couple weeks ago, Hoagie, I had something at halftime about like hottest teams, and I picked Ohio State, right? This was after they've won like 8 straight. Put it all in perspective, though. Like, for me, what Ohio State's doing is amazing. Last 2 years, back-to-back losing seasons. So let's set the table up for this year. Back-to-back losing seasons. You lose to Michigan 2 years in a row, okay? In the same week at the end of the season, both years in the Big Ten championship. And then if the first year wasn't bad enough, the second year they did it on your field, okay? So like the table's set. Losing seasons, season ends, both years, 2 losses in a row to Michigan. Like, you can't write a worse script for an Ohio State lacrosse fan. Like, you guys agree with me, right?
I love this segment so far.
Okay. Week one, they get below torched by Utah. Everyone's like, these guys are total scrubs, right? Like, let's write them off. They're done. We don't have to worry about them, right? Everyone. Okay. The only ones who didn't write them off were probably you, Hoagie, you, Mitchell, and the locker room. Okay. I, for one, I wrote them off. I did. And I had every right to write them off based on what they did the last 2 years and how they started this year. Guys, I have so much respect for every single guy in that locker room, every single coach, because the whole lacrosse world thought they stunk, and they started this year on an awful note. And boy, oh boy, did they not just turn it around? Like, they're a wagon right now, right? They are clicking on all cylinders. They have, to me, 2 great cover defenders, Bobby Van Buren, Cullen Brown, right? Big tasty in the net. Their short sticks are like rabid dogs. They are a legit defense. And then the offense, what's so intriguing about them, last I checked, they had 9 players over 10 points earlier in the season. So they had like 9 players in double-digit points. So yeah, you don't have the marquee C.J Kirst of the world, or you don't have a Kavanaugh. Like, they're tough to scout because it doesn't really matter who's going to beat you, and everyone's involved in the offense, and everyone is doing their job. I think the The Grant Haas kid is a really, really good player. He's got a lot of upside. He's quick twitched. He's got good vision. They got the kid Marinier who's slinging the ball. I love his stat line too. It's like, what's he got, like 30-something goals?
40 goals,
Yeah,
2 assists right now.
Yeah,
Carc.
it's rock and
42.
roll. It's rock and
Yeah.
roll.
So everyone outside of him, and what he does really well, can beat you 2 ways. It's almost like Cornell, where if you ask someone to name 3 midfielders for Ohio State, they'd be hard pressed, but that's the beauty of who they are. So I have so much respect for Nick Myers, for Travis Crane, the rest of that staff, and every guy in that locker room, because it's so hard to do what they did the last 2 years and start this year and then turn it around to what they're doing. Like, guys, put that in perspective, right? Like they are not only playing like a great lacrosse team, they are a team that believes in themselves and literally blocks the outside noise. I thought this week's win against Hopkins was massive, and I'll tell you why. Inside Lacrosse comes out that bracketology. Part of me thought, like, is this what's going to make these guys wilt? Like, if they start having some mind games, in the back of their head, like, shit, we're really good, but we still might not make the playoffs. And then they start playing tight and gripping the sticks. They went down to Homewood and they got it done. That tells me even more. Like, this team is for real. And props to them, because I did not believe in them. I'm the first to admit, like, when I don't believe in something, I didn't. And no one, too. There's no way you thought Ohio State was going to be good this year.
Still don't.
So they're your number one?
No, I'm joking. At this point, I'm just full troll mode. I'll pick against them every week. But I'm not going to join the bandwagon for them. And you're saying Hoagie and Mitch, even they went to Ohio State and they picked Notre Dame to beat them.
Yeah.
And, like, we gave them shit about it.
Yeah, look, because
no one saw this coming.
Based on the way that things were going, they should have.
Right.
Like,
No one saw it
I
coming.
give you guys credit. You're not going to pick Ohio State every single week, right? Like, you're being
We're media
active
members.
in the back of your mind, right? Like, but that's incredible. But going back to your original question of Ohio State, and then you asked me the 4 teams that are going to be in the
Yeah, who
Final
do you got right
Four.
now? Championship weekend as of right now.
I have no clue. I can't. Look. There's 2 reasons I have no clue. One reason is I think there's 8 to 9 schools that can win a national championship. Like, if I'm just going to rattle off some schools. Would you be totally shocked if Cornell won a national championship this year?
No.
Would you be totally shocked if John Tillman once again outcoached everyone and won a national title? Would you be shocked?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Would you be shocked if Notre Dame had a 3-peat?
Nope.
No.
Would you be shocked if Syracuse won a national title?
Nope.
Not shocked.
No.
No.
Okay. Would you be shocked if UNC went on a run? And don't say no. I would. Yes, I would be shocked, because 2016 they were on the brink of not even making the playoffs and won a championship. And this team's actually more well-rounded than that team. So
Yeah.
Carolina, no one would fault you and say you're crazy, right? We're just going on the we're going on the leg to stand on that the team could win a championship. So we all agree Carolina could.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Especially Brady Wambach, I think.
Yeah. Penn State could figure it out. Princeton, right? Princeton is legit. They're RPI number 1. They've beaten some great teams already, like Penn State. They've beaten UNC. Like, they're a team that could definitely go on a run. They have Ivy League championships in their back pocket, back-to-back years. They've been to championship weekend in 2022. No one would flinch, right, if they went. The Ohio State Buckeyes, obviously winning 10 games in a row. No one's going to say boo after you've beaten 3 Final Four teams already this year, and you're playing the 4th this weekend. So if they beat Maryland, they've conquered the entire Final Four field from a year ago. So those are teams right there. Army, no one would say this is a team that can't win a title. You could argue Army right up the middle has the most impressive group of proven high-end players, right? You got the Burn Kid and Cage, who leads the nation in save percentage. AJ Pilot's been a lockdown defender since his freshman year. So you have your goalie, your cover D guy, right? They've got a rope unit and a short stick D-midi group that is playing as about as aggressive as it gets, right? The Fournier kid is a long stick midi. The media had him as a mid-season first-team All-American as a pull. Plunkett is unbelievable as a midfielder. Evan Plunkett will be a first-round draft pick next year. He's been great since his freshman year, a 2020 guy. And then you have Jackson Eicher at attack. So, like, when you look at championship teams, you look at right up the middle. Like, you got your goalie, your cover defender, your face-off guy. I didn't even mention 𝐓𝐇𝐄, top guy in the country, top 2 or 3. No one would ever question that. And then you go to your attack. Like, for example, 2016, Brown was built up the middle, right? They had Jack Kelly. They had all those Poles who could score goals. They had a really strong midfield. Will Gurrell, I think, was second or third team midfielder as a face-off guy. And then the attack, Dylan Malloy won the Twarton. If Lars Tiffany didn't play him late in the game against Johns Hopkins in the first round, I firmly believe Brown would have won a national title in 2016. Instead, Dylan Malloy had to play on one wheel, and they didn't win. So you look at the way teams are built, right? I'm just rattling off these teams. I'm at like 8 or 9 already. But the reality is, no one would flinch if any of these teams won a national title, right? Like, no one would. It's just they're too much parity. The one like tilting factor I have, when teams are this close in talent, how do you pick a team to win a national title? I think you go on the back of a generational player. And the one school right now that has that outlier is Cornell. It's the same reason why UConn and Paige Beckers, right? They win a national title. Like, you ride that generational type player. Like, UConn women's basketball has been amazing for decades. And people are like, Paige Beckers is on the Mount Rushmore of women's basketball at UConn. Like, that's what changes when you have a field that's so tight. You got to ride that thoroughbred. And the thoroughbred of all thoroughbreds in this field is C.J Kirst. You guys also asked me who's my championship weekend Final Four teams. I have no clue. I'm happy to tell you once the brackets come out, because it's so matchup oriented. That's why I said 8 or 9 teams could win it, and the 4 that are there at the end, it's going to be a lot of matchup driven type things. Like,
Carc, what about an 11 to 20 team right now in like the poll that may not even be seeded, that you wouldn't be shocked they made a run at least to the championship weekend? Or you don't see anyone, you just think it's like the top 9?
I look at it like 8 or 9. I don't. The one team that's 10 or below that's proven they can play with everyone is Richmond, right? Like, no one wants to play Richmond. Richmond would be a real pain in the backside in the quarterfinals, because Dan Shamati plays a big boy schedule every year, and they never get blown out. Like, look at their scores. It's not just this year. Like, every year they're playing Maryland tight. They're playing everyone tight, and they're winning some of these games too. So, to me, I think Richmond is probably as sneaky as it gets when you go 10 and below. I think some of those other schools,
What about Duke?
don't have enough firepower. Like, I think, in this day and age, you're going to need to score goals. If you don't need to score a goal in the first round, you're going to need to get one, a high scoring affair in the quarters of the semifinals or the finals. Like, you can't just win with just defense. You can't win just with offense. That's the one thing I'm a little concerned about with Cornell. Like, are they going to be able to make the stops, right? Like, if Cornell matchup wise runs into a team that faces off really well, plays great team defense, like Army would be a big challenge for Cornell, if you ask me. And if I saw Army in the quarterfinals for Cornell, I'd be more concerned than if I saw a bunch of other schools.
Carc, no faith that Duke could get it together?
I didn't mention them, did I?
No, you didn't.
No, I don't think they can.
Ooh, wow.
I don't. Championship weekend, right now, I'm not seeing it. I mean, let's go around the horn right here.
I mean, they beat Richmond.
What?
They beat Richmond.
They did beat Richmond, but I also think, like, Duke getting blown out back-to-back weeks, Denver and Notre Dame, and what I saw in the Notre Dame game scared me a little bit long-term for Duke. That was the lack of attack production, right? Like, who on that attack can own a matchup in a big spot, right? Like, when I say own a matchup, I don't mean like beat a guy for a goal or two. Like, who can take over a game? Like, who on that, I'm going to ask all of you guys, who on that Duke attack right now do you think can dominate a really, really big game?
I like Sloat a lot.
Yeah, they bumped him back to midfield.
Yeah, he's been.
Did they?
Yeah, he's been bouncing around. Molliver is. I don't think he can take over a game, but he's got to be the quietest 50-point guy in college lacrosse right now.
I think Molliver is a very, very good player. I think he's a very good player. I think he's got really good vision. I don't think he's in a spot like if you take Sloat off that attack, and I get why they moved him to midfield because they don't want that midfield to get double pulled all the time. But if you move Sloat to attack, to midfield from attack, which they did, and you ask Molliver to go against, and in back-to-back weeks, guys like a Sean Light, guys like a John Schroeder, that's not an easy matchup for him. That's not like that's
So,
this
Carc,
is the
do you
beginning
think
of the year when you're playing those out of conference games, and I think he's a really good player. I think he'd be like a perfect second option on a championship team.
Carc, do you think Duke is closer to missing the tournament or making championship weekend? Like, which one do you think they're closer to?
Missing the tournament.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I feel the same way.
Missing the tournament, and I don't. Now let's be honest. You're gonna take this sound bite. You got to hear the rest.
Yeah, they're gonna clip it, Carc.
Yeah, you're gonna
Get ready.
I've been down this road before, right? Like I could just see this thing coming. What do you think about Duke missing the tournament? Then you don't see anything else. Like, hear me out. I think they're going to make the tournament, okay? But I don't think they're going to make championship weekend.
Got it.
So that's where my head is, and I just think you need more of a scoring punch. I mean, they had back-to-back weeks with 6 goals or less, right? That's a little scary, isn't it? That's a little scary, right? Right, guys?
Yeah, very concerning.
Yeah, that's
especially
concerning.
Where they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year, or just talent-wise over the past couple of years. You would not expect that out of the team.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe they tinker with the offense. That's why, like, if you look at late in the Michigan game when they moved McAdory, they need McAdory in so many different ways, and I think that they decided to go more, heavy, potent midfield with him and Sloat and Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's a horse, man. That guy shoots about as hard with his left hand as any young midi you're going to see. So they have an elite first-line midfield. I mean, who wouldn't want that first-line midfield? But in a perfect world, you're just missing that guy. I mean, you went from 800 career points with Zawada, O'Neal, and Williams to this attack, and it's not a slight at these guys, but like those guys, who's starting on Duke's attack right now? Who's starting on last year's Duke attack? Anyone?
Probably no one. Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate McAdory down there though at attack at times. I mean, I kind of look back at last year's ACC tournament game when he got to play attack and he kind of flourished against Syracuse on that second semifinal game, and he had that big breakout game because obviously he's been playing midfield with the amount of talent they've had at attack. And I guess he's kind of had to carry the weight, but I kind of look at the beginning of the year in the Michigan game when he just put Duke on his back over that last 3 minutes. They lose that game. Do you think, Carc, like moving him back down to attack could be a move, or you think you got to keep him at midfield just to keep the offense flowing?
Look, he's going to get the number one pull no matter what. So I think based on this team, I would keep him on the field the whole time. I like McAdory as a midfielder. Like that's where I think he's going to play in the pros. But I think for this Duke team, what they need the most is him at attack. I think he's a midfielder, true and true. I actually think McAdory's a phenomenal player. I think he's going to be a great pro. I would like to see him in a perfect world on wings more. I'd like to start his shift on defense so he could trap an offensive midfielder on the other side. But for this Duke team, I just think like if you can't win matchups at attack, you struggle. Like did you guys watch the Duke Notre Dame game?
Yeah.
All right. What did you think? What did you think of the matchups when they tried to get any separation from an attack against a defender at Notre Dame? Did you see any separation?
No.
Did you see anything remotely close to what Peyton Anderson was able to do?
No.
Bully his way through and score a goal. Like that makes things very difficult offensively when you're that one-dimensional, where all the pressure's coming from Sloat, Johnson, and McAdory up top. That makes things a lot easier to defend. So, and then again, maybe they figure it out and they get some more attack presence, because these guys are are really good players. It's just we're asking them to be number ones, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a different animal.
Carc, I want to ask you about Direct because it's one of TLN's best properties. It's like, what fans flock to every year. Even if you're not like someone who follows every post we make, people watch through X, and you're the face of the franchise. And I know we have 2 huge episodes coming out this year. We haven't announced who the players are yet, so let's not give that away. But I want to ask, like, who was your favorite episode of Through X to film with, and like maybe the athlete that maybe had the most compelling approach to the game mentally and physically for you?
Wow, that's about as hard of a question as I've been asked. It's a great question. They're all very different in terms of their approach to the game. They've all exceeded my expectations because, like, when you watch a guy play, you think like they're making these plays off of like sheer talent and just skill and just overall experience and understanding of their skill set. What I've enjoyed the most is how these offensive players, most notably attackmen, see like the layers of an offense, and they see their role and how it works within offenses, and they flourish because of that quarterback mentality, right? Like almost like a coach on the field. So I'm blown away when I sit down with these guys, especially when I'm on the field. Everyone from a Pat Spencer, to a Michael Sowers, to a Brennan O'Neill. I learned something from every single one of them. Every single one of them. Pat Spencer told me something that I teach kids to this day. Like, his basketball background, like when you watch him play, he rarely rolled, right? He rarely did roll dodges. The only time Pat Spencer really rolled was to come right out for a shot. And he told me something when we were filming Through X. The reason why, like when he's in space and he's dodging, he rarely rolls, because when he rolls, he has to kind of recalibrate and find his vision again. And it's the same thing. Like when you watch him play basketball and then you watch him play lacrosse, he's the same athlete bringing those aspects of hoops into his lacrosse game, and he's seen everything in front of him. And when you watch Pat Spencer, like, you guys have watched Pat Spencer for years. Pat Spencer is one of the greatest attackmen I've ever seen, right? Like he is up there with the greats of the greats. Do you ever like envision in the back of your mind when you see replays, in your head of Pat Spencer, him roll dodging? Not much, right? Like, so you take something away from each one. Like, I sat with a couple guys this year, and I'm not going to give it away, but there were some shooting things with one of the players that I thought was just so unique, and you'll see it this year. I go back to C.J Kirst and how he uses the back of the goal all the time to manipulate his defenders, right? Like there's pieces and aspects to every single guy. Brennan O'Neill kind of blew me away when we went onto the field in terms of just how he can do things. Like, I've never been on a field with a guy that had the combination of size, speed, skill, all in one. He's the closest thing I've ever seen to Gary Gate. And you just felt him physically. Like when I was putting him through like some different scenarios, I've never felt like that physical presence and that much of an outlier in our sport. Like, he is a complete freak show. Like he is so good. And it's his right hand too. Like, I was blown away. Like, this is a dominant lefty guy that you rarely see doing stuff with the right hand. Like, I walked away from that. I'm like, dude, you need to start using your right hand more. Like, he is so good with his right hand. So every guy is different. Ethan Walker, who I did years ago in Denver, there were some shooting aspects to the way that he does things. It's been a fascinating project, and it really never gets stale because of the way that the franchise is evolving. We have some really cool new tweaks this year that we haven't used in the past in terms of highlighting the player. I'm not going to give it away too much, but like bringing in other aspects of breaking his game down that doesn't involve him. So there's really cool like layers to this. One of the players that we feature this year, we did it on a weekend when there was a game. So we felt the connection of the game, the atmosphere, the player, the program, the striving for the next level of the program all in one. So like the storytelling aspect of 𝐓𝐇𝐄 always changes. And I think this year is probably the biggest change in terms of the format, which is super cool. But favorite, geez. Look, I'm not going to skate around this question. So like if someone said your favorite of all time, who was it? I'm going to say it was Pat Spencer. And the reason I'm going to say it was Pat Spencer, because 2 years prior to me doing a 𝐓𝐇𝐄 with Pat Spencer, I went down there and I did one of my goofy drive-alongs, right, where he was in the car. And I remember him telling me how passionate about basketball he was. So I went to the gym with him. This is right after his freshman year. You remember he like went nuclear against Duke his freshman year in 2016 in the first round. He abused every defender who went against him. He was a freshman that year, and he took them to the Final Four that year as a freshman. He was just next level, right? He was just so good. And I'll never forget that following fall. I go down there and I film a relaxing with Carc, and we're driving around in the car, and he's telling me about basketball so much that he doesn't even train much lacrosse in the offseason. He plays pickup hoops in Annapolis and in Baltimore. And I go to the gym with him that day, and I walked away. I was like, holy shnikes, man. This dude is not just playing basketball for a hobby. Like this guy's for real, like draining, doing like these dribbling things and dunking. It was like if you were to just parachute in from Mars, you'd think this guy is a basketball player. So I knew that was really, really passionate about something that he was passionate about. So when I came back and did the 𝐓𝐶 2 years later, his senior year, I wanted it to be a heavy influence of hoops. And I did it for a few reasons. I wanted the lacrosse world to see a multi-sport athlete, but I did it for Pat too, because I wanted Pat to get even more exposure as a basketball player, because I knew Pat's plan. Pat told me something kind of in confidence that he was going to make a run at basketball early on. So I figured, hell, if this guy's going to make a run at basketball and we're featuring him on this thing, like, why don't we give him even more of a platform for basketball? So like, that's why that piece had such a basketball influence on it. And I knew it was really, really important. So you guys probably remember him doing those dunks and draining things. And so like that to me, it was more of it was like an emotional connection to something I remember that was near and dear to him early in his career, that continued to be near and dear to him. And it was where his head was in the future. Like, I knew he wanted this. And I remember telling my wife, I remember telling a couple of my friends, do not be shocked. And I'm not even making this up. I'm not, guys. Like, I'm wrong a ton, but I was not wrong here. I said, do not be shocked if this guy does something in the sport. And some people laughed at me like, dude, he's not even playing college basketball. Do you know how hard it is to make it? I'm like, well, I don't know what professional level he's going to play, but don't be shocked if he goes over to Europe, he does something. I saw the athletic ability, and I have a front row seat to some high-end athletes. I've been covering college football with ESPN for 13 years. I see the best of best athletes. Pat Spencer had that in him. Like, Pat Spencer is a bona fide super elite athlete. His body movement, his balance, it's not just pure speed and how quick he is or how fast he is. His balance and his coordination is next level. Like, Pat Spencer grew up in Texas and he was a quarterback. I wouldn't have been shocked if he was in the NFL. I say that about Casey Powell too. Like, Casey Powell, who I played with at Syracuse, he had the balance, speed, overall coordination, where if he grew up in Texas, he would have been an NFL wide receiver. Like, he was that good of an athlete. He was that good of a competitor. So I saw that in Pat Spencer. So I think it wasn't just what I learned from Pat when I sat down with him. It was more of the journey of Pat's that I was kind of so connected to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you pull back the curtain on those guys. Obviously, lacrosse, not a huge sport. And so Pat Spencer, Kavanaugh brothers, Brendan O'Neill, that end scene where you kind of get level with them. I love those moments, and I feel like lacrosse needs more of it.
Yeah, look, lacrosse deserves that. So when I was covering games for many years, I was one year, this is about 10 years ago, I was on a chairlift in Utah. I love to snowboard, and like, I always do it between football and lacrosse. And I remember saying to myself, like, lacrosse needs an opportunity for people to learn more about the athletes, like the storytelling aspect of it. So that was a priority for me. I came back from Utah. I bought a GoPro and I started doing like some goofy stuff, like doing some drive-alongs with guys like Connor Fields and Ben Reeves. And, then it evolved into another passion of mine, which is cutting hair. I've been cutting hair since I'm in, 5th grade. So I started doing those goofy things. And it wasn't about me cutting hair. It wasn't about me driving in a car. And it was never really about me. It was more about me wanting stories being told, because I felt like prior to that, we were never telling stories. We'd have games on, and when the game was over, on to the next. So storytelling became a priority of mine. It's something that I'm passionate about. I think the lacrosse world deserved it. That's why I've done, a lot of these pieces over the years. When Bill Belichick, I got to sit down with in 2015, like back then he wasn't talking to anyone, but because it was lacrosse, he loved spending the time with me. Like it was great, right? Like there's the haircuts with Dave Petramala and Grant Ament prior to the Final Four for the kid, like to tell the story. And the cutting hair is not the important thing. It's more of the Philly kids going back to his hometown and bringing the state school on the biggest stage a chance to win a national title. And you go through the levels of the journey. Like to me, that's so important. Now, the person who wants to just go nuclear and break down things, X's and O's every single game, I'm probably not their cup of tea, but that's okay. Like to grow the game, we need to tell stories, and we need to go behind the curtain. We need to give people like an emotional attachment to these players. That's not to say that I don't love breaking the game down. Like I look for things in a game like that I pick up based on watching every single game that these teams have played. So like, I know exactly what's happening. There were some moments in the last game last week against with Syracuse against Notre Dame where just like when you watch so much, those golden spots of being an analyst just come naturally because you've seen it, and it happens, right? You don't have to force feed it. So that's very important in the role I'm in, but equally important is storytelling. Like storytelling is emotional transportation, right? It's like you gotta analyze and you gotta humanize, and you can try to bring it together and do the best you can, right? And that's kind of been my mission. The total lax junkies might not like it as much, but that's okay.
I think that you're one of the best storytellers in the game. One of my favorite announcers by far. Even when I see you with college football, it's so cool because I feel like you're one of ours. And when I'm watching, I'm like, oh shit, that's.
I am,
yeah,
dude. I don't think.
Yeah, I know.
If you gave me an opportunity, I say this, and I love calling college football, and I know this sounds crazy, but if you said, hey, you can do Michigan, Ohio State in football, or you can do the biggest lacrosse game of the year, I'm not even thinking twice, man.
Right.
I'm going lacrosse all in. I don't care.
I love that too.
I don't care
I love
how
that.
many people are in the stands. Like that is my passion. It's my love. Guys, like during games, I get so into it. I don't even know half the time really what I'm saying. I borderline black out.
So like in the football, when you go to a football game, right? And I know you've probably seen so many more campuses than probably any of us. What's one school that doesn't have lacrosse that you saw that you wish did?
It's funny you say that, Dukes. I did a little exercise in my head. I think I've been to like every Power 5. Now it's Power 4. I think I've been to every Power 5 school other than just like 2 or 3. I've never been to Washington State. I've done them on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That was one school I haven't been to. Like I've been literally everywhere. I have never been to Oregon. I've done them on the road like 2 or 3 times, but I've done everyone else from USC to Alabama to everyone, you name it, Florida, Georgia, all the Big Tens. Like ESPN doesn't have the Big Ten contract now, but I was on the Big Ten noon package for 2 or 3 years. So I've been to Ohio State doing games. I've been to Michigan. I've been to everywhere you could imagine on a college football front. Schools that are tailor made for a lacrosse. Like, man, I look at towns, right? Like great towns. Like Athens, Georgia has a great college town. I look at the emergence of Atlanta lacrosse, right? You talk about, certain areas being really strong, translating from high school lacrosse to college lacrosse. There's some states that haven't been able to adjust at the level of some. You know what? One state that's really, really getting excellent at high school lacrosse, translating to really good college players, Georgia. Georgia has a ton of dudes who are playing college lacrosse right now, from the Irkses of the world to the Malivers of the world to Fisher Finleys at Notre Dame. Like, every roster has Fulton Bayman at Georgetown. Like, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But Georgia is becoming a serious player in the national landscape of lacrosse. So if you gave the state school in Athens, Georgia, have you guys been to Athens, Georgia? Like,
I want to so bad.
I've heard
I'll
it's
go for a
awesome.
lacrosse
Never
game.
been.
go there for
Never
a
been.
football weekend, man. It's
I know, it looks so sick.
absolutely electric, right? So, like, to me, when you ask me that question, it's not
I
just
love
finding
that.
like the best town, like Ole
Right.
Miss, but like, it's not sustainable at Ole Miss. There's not good enough high school lacrosse in Mississippi, right?
For sure.
Like, to me, Georgia fits it. You have a natural
Yeah.
feeder with a state that's really getting behind lacrosse. You have an athletic department with a massive budget. So to me, like, that's synergy, right? Like,
That's a perfect answer, because I would have guessed either Texas or one
He's
of
so
the Florida
sick.
schools, given what I thought was Florida having a great program down there in the athletes, and same with Texas. I know there's a bunch of PLL players right now that are coaching in Texas. But yes, my last question of the night. Mitch started off with start bench cut with food, so I got to ask. You see all these campuses. Who has the best? Which campus has the best food?
the best food. We're
Yeah.
talking just lacrosse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let's just
Yeah,
let's go
Dulac.
just
Yeah.
last.
Best campus
Yeah.
seats.
Yeah,
at
let's
one
go
of these
just
flag
Lax.
schools.
I mean, there's layers to this, right? So, like, there's a place in South Bend that I love to go. It's called Jesus. It's like Central American meat would be like the DNA, right? It's got like these certain spices and just the way that they prepare the meat there. It's outstanding. When I go to Chapel Hill, there's like 2 or 3 really, really good restaurants. When I go to Syracuse, I have like 3 Italian restaurants. Guys, Syracuse has awesome Italian food.
Wow.
And the reason being is the Italians were a big part of building the Erie Canal way back when, right? They were cheap labor, and all the Italians were migrating to New York, and they were going upstate, and they helped build the Erie Canal. So there is Italians everywhere in upstate, from Buffalo to Rochester to Syracuse to Albany, right along the Erie Canal. So Syracuse has a good Italian restaurant scene, from Sant'Angelo's with their Utica greens, and their meatballs are outstanding. Francesca's, I love that place. So, like, I have my go-to spots at all these schools. Like, I don't love the food in South Bend, Indiana. I'm going to be honest with you, but I love Jesus. So, like,
Yeah.
I go there, right?
Yeah.
They got
perfect.
this other place, Cornbread. So, like, I have my places that I really love to go. If I'm going with like Meathead Cotter, you guys know Cotter, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
a big breakfast guy. I'm more of like a lunch and dinner guy. I like to eat light, get a little workout in the morning. Like, he wants to smash like a triple stack of pancakes, eggs, bacon, and wash it down with a coffee. It's a little aggressive for me in the morning. So
Yep.
I'll be a teammate and do it with him. But to me, and UVA's got a great scene too. Like, if you go in that Belmont section of UVA, they have some really good restaurants. So, like, it's so hard to say. Like, when you ask me that question, I think of food all the time. Like, I probably drool in the middle of the night when I'm dreaming, thinking about food. I should be 350 pounds. The only reason I'm not is I kill myself on the Peloton every day.
There you
I
go.
murder myself.
Hey, get the kill-a-calorie somehow.
Hey,
I do it to
The
eat. I do
Italian.
it to eat. Like, right now, guys, like, so I had dinner before I got on with you guys. I actually, like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't have dessert now. I have nothing else to look forward to the rest of the night. Like, I have some ice cream waiting for me tonight.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's the little things. I thought, as a Long Island guy, I was happy they used to put Vincent's
I
on
like
the map.
that.
Vincent's is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was gonna
Vincent's
say
to me
Vincent's Clam Bar.
Vincent's is very good, but to me,
Great team meal.
Vincent's has like a Disney World feel to it, right? Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, it's so overly aggressive with the portions. Like you walk out of Vincent's and I feel like I need to unbuckle my pants, and I need to go on a scooter on the way back. Like I'm in Disney World.
yeah. I love how every team goes there when they go to the quarterfinals.
Oh my
for
God.
Hockey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then
when I was
you
a
know,
little,
like when Georgetown goes there, Kevin Warren's like, I'm like, where'd you go? He's like, where'd you think I went? I went to Vincent's, I went to Vincent's. right?
When I was like 12 years old, I remember I used to go to Vincent's like the Thursday or Friday before the quarterfinals. It's like maybe I could see some players.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just
I
happen.
think Warren gets like shrimp parmesan there.
Yeah. I think I know someone that does that. You got to go. Just got to go the
Oh,
normal
No,
chicken.
shrimp parmesan is like,
I know.
come on. Like Mitch, like shrimp parmesan as
That's
an Italian
heinous.
guy.
Yeah, that's so
Before
insane.
you got on, I was like, I know you're Italian. Your mom's
That's
very
criminal.
Italian. You've been rocking a Italian horn. I think you should tell people that your dad was Italian too, and his last name was like Pelcarino, and he just changed it.
Pelcarino.
Mitch,
We gotta take. I've actually
Then
never
you can
thought.
tell people you're 100%. Like,
That's all it is.
My dad was so over the top
God,
Italian.
that'd be huge.
His name was Pelcarino.
Mitch, we gotta go with Carc to that place
could be
on
the next
Long Island.
undercover.
What was it called that we went to with J-Mac every year? And the camps and some. Chris and Tony's, you ever been there, Carc, on the island?
Chris and Tony's.
And
Family
style, old
one
school,
of my
Goodfellas vibes. Yeah.
Oh, that's a classic.
One of my favorite things to eat too is just straight up pizza. Like I can eat pizza every day. Pizza.
Well, that brings us to our last question. Then I got to ask you this: I was at Yale in the fall. What's your spot?
I don't live too far, so we have some.
You
good
don't live too
pizza
far
in my town, but I would say, I think. I'm going to make this really simple for you guys. So they've all franchised out, right? Other than Modern, I don't think. Sally's has franchised out.
Can we just get
I'm gonna give it to you.
black and
Mitch,
white
let Carc
answer?
dissect it here. This is serious
I've only
stuff.
talked for 3 hours. You can give me another 60 seconds.
This is the most important question too. You're asking for the New Haven pizza. Yeah.
Well, hear me out. You guys are going to have a really tough time editing this stuff. Okay, so hear me out. So as far as I know, Modern has not franchised out, right? Sally's has franchised out, and Pepe's has franchised out. I feel like Sally's has done the best job in keeping it consistent. Like when you go to New Haven Sally's, or if you go to Stanford Sally's, they're both really, really legit. I've had Pepe's in New Haven off the charts, and I've had it in Stanford, and I was very disappointed. Right, so that's why I have layers to this. So I think Sally's, from a franchise perspective, holds up the best. When you go Modern, Pepe's, and Sally's in New Haven, you can fight and make a case for any of them. Like I feel like Modern to me is really underrated and should get the level of the Sally's and Pepe's. But my favorite one is actually in West Haven. It's called Zupardi's.
Oh, you and Shay. No
is that
way.
what Andy Shea said?
That's what he picked.
He's right. Did he feed you the sausage pizza there?
That's what he said. He said, get the sausage pie. And all the other guys were clowning on him, and I didn't take his word.
So Connor Fields' dad is a great guy, Peter Fields. I got to know him when I did a Through X. That's the other thing, too. Like, you get to know their families, and then you start rooting for the kids. And then Connor's my daughter's favorite player of all time, and she wore number 5 for years, right? So there's these pieces, and I got to know Peter Fields from my time up in Albany, and he's become a really good friend of mine. He loves cigars. I don't smoke cigars. He loves craft beer. Craft beer, no one's going to put their nose on craft beer, but and he loves pizza. So we talk about pizza all the time, and I gave him the beat on Zupardi's because of Shea. Credit to Andy Shea, and he thinks Zupardi's is the best. And Connor Fields' dad, Pete, when I tell you he travels for pizza, this dude
he's a pizza rat. God, I love that. That fires
Carc,
me
what
up.
about Colony Grill?
Dude, hell no.
We
Okay.
can sign off on that one.
Colony Grill is about as thin as the chicken
Litos.
parm I aspire to have.
I've never had it. I've heard people say,
No.
Fairfield guys say it's great. I don't know. No,
Dude,
don't
all you
trust
need
them.
to know, you want to know whose favorite pizza, whose favorite spot is Colony Grill?
Arestia.
Dan Orlovsky. So I worked a full season with Dan Orlovsky in 2018. He did college football with me. We become really good friends. We worked a whole year together. So we worked out every Friday before our games. We went out to dinner. Our families got to know each other. He's a great friend of mine. He has the worst taste in food of any human I know. Like, he's clueless. He's absolutely clueless when it comes to food. His favorite pizza spot in Connecticut is Colony Grill. Guys, look, no disrespect to Colony Grill and the establishment. They fill a niche and a void for that kind of bar pizza. That's not my style. I want real pizza. I don't need a personal pan pizza. If I'm smashing a whole pie, something's wrong with that scene. I want a slice, or I want to sit down with all of you guys, and we each could have a few slices. Like if I'm ordering my own personal pan, I'm out.
That makes
Okay.
That's
No, I like that.
Can I give you one? This is my last one. I'm not even going to tell you a question. Try Brewport in Westport next to the amphitheater.
What's it called?
Brewport. It's a brewery and it has pizza there, and it's next to the amphitheater. And for some reason, it is so good. My friend turned me on to it for a concert.
Dude, add it to the list.
Add it to the list.
The electric chair. When they send me off to the chair, pizza will be involved.
Okay, I like that. Pizza and parm. Don't forget about it. The cutlet under the door. Carc, you're a legend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Anytime, guys. Be good.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Carc.
you.
Thanks, man.
Carc.